Hello, 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 and welcome. Welcome to another episode of Wellness Wednesday with Dr. Latoya Wells. I am so grateful that you're here for yet another episode. For those of you who join me each and every Wednesday, I want to say thank you so much. For those of you who are new to Wellness Wednesday, welcome. I am Dr. Latoya Wells. I'm a family nurse practitioner, doctorally prepared, which is where the doctor comes from. I am not a medical doctor. I'm a family nurse practitioner who holds a doctorate degree. I own Wells Legacy Health and Wellness, which is a full service primary care practice in Altamont Springs, Florida. We are accepting new patients. We are accepting insurances, early morning, evening, and weekend time frames for appointments. We are offering some new services, and I will be sharing that information shortly on social media. Tonight, we're going to get into a topic that I was going to hold until later in the month, but I felt it was important to start having these conversations now. We've talked about this previously in different populations, men and women. This month, in the month of July, and as you know, each month I tend to focus on common or important or poignant health topics. And tonight we're going to talk about mental health in the minority community and population. And when I think about and when I'm watching the news and I'm on social media and things that people that I know are going through or dealing with personally, that I know, patients that I am taking care of, and just the climate of our communities and our environment right now, there's a lot going on. And the mental load of individuals is increasing and it's heavy. And so I want to talk about and just provide some tips and strategies and things that individuals can use to put into practice to help them if they're dealing with a lot. Minority communities, we talk about different things within our communities. There's certain things that we don't share with people, and there's many different statements that are said. You know, what happens in this house stays in this house, and we don't let anybody in our business. And oh, that's just auntie so and so, or that's just uncle so and so. That's how they are. Well, we need to talk about these things because little do we know things that we don't deal with and things that we don't heal from and traumas that we've experienced. If we don't get the coping mechanisms and the tools that we need, we will bring those things into other relationships. It'll impact our family, our children, relationships with, significant others and other people. I want to put this disclaimer out. I am not a mental health nurse practitioner or provider. I am not a mental health provider. However, I have many years of experience with dealing with and taking care of patients who have been institutionalized in mental health facilities, as well as a primary care provider and healthcare nurse practitioner. We take care of all aspects of a patient's life. And so I want to talk a little bit about stress management. What are we doing to manage our stress? What are we doing to get through the tough days? What are we doing when the load is too heavy? What are you doing? What outlets do you have? Who are you reaching out to? Who are you talking to? And who can you confide in to get some help? And so I want you to know that there is help. Had a conversation with a young man earlier this week, and our young adults and our teenagers, even the little kids, are dealing with a lot. I want to first stop and just say my thoughts and prayers are with the families of the flooding, the flash flooding that happened in Texas. And they're still looking for people. I believe last that I heard it was 170 people still unaccounted for. Definitely praying for those families. We're sending our thoughts and our prayers there. We as a nation should be rallying together to see what we can do to support, because we just don't know. It could have been our area. So I'm grateful for those who did survive, and we are praying for those who have not been found, and those families who've lost loved ones and have lost everything. So just wanted to put that out there. And as I think about it, the mental load that those individuals are carrying, the first responders, the leaders, those who are volunteers who are searching for people, it's a lot to carry. And so I wanted to take a moment. And again, like I said, I was going to talk about this later in the month, but I feel like I was led into to have this conversation tonight. So we're going to talk about it. And as you know, I don't mind talking about things. I don't mind talking about controversial things. We're going to talk about it. And I want to just make sure that you guys have all of the information that you need and the resources that you can tap into. So when it comes to mental health and the minority community or BIPOC community, we need more attention in these areas. We need more resources. We need more outlet. We need more providers who specialize in taking care of and providing mental health assistance to these individuals within this community. Some key stats, and you guys know I love my numbers and statistics. So Black adults are 20% more likely to experience mental health issues, but less likely to receive treatment. And there's many different factors that play into that. When I think about my upbringing and my community and my culture, you didn't go to therapists, you didn't go to talk to anyone. And it was almost a taboo topic if you felt like you needed to go and seek help for mental health illnesses. I can remember as a little girl, I was probably in middle school, I believe. And there was a a young girl, she was around my age, who was dealing with some mental health things, including abuse. And she literally lost her mind. I haven't seen her in years, but whenever I would see her, she remembers me. And I would call her by name and she remembers me. And it's just sad because had she received the support and the protection that she needed, who knows where she would be today. Only 33% of Black Americans who need mental health care receive it. 33%. And when we look at the numbers of Black individuals, Black Americans within our country, we are a minority, but yet we don't get the help that we need. And that's on many different levels, many different levels. And I think we've talked about it, maternal fetal death rate in the African American community, the Black communities. I have someone that I met through this social media platform, have yet to meet her in person yet, but I feel like we know each other because we've interacted so much. Was in the hospital after surgery and dealt with some not so favorable providers. She didn't get the best of care, and it's sad. It really is sad, but that's not the topic of the discussion tonight. But that can lead to mental health issues. It can lead to depression. It can lead to anxiety. It can lead to mistrust in the healthcare system. And when we think about it, that's part of the root in which why certain communities don't go and seek help because of history and because of past experiences and because of experiences with family members and generations before them. Latino adults are 60% less likely to receive mental health care than non-Hispanic whites. So we're not just talking about the Black community. We're talking about Hispanics. We're talking about Latino. And we're talking about Asian Americans are 3 times less likely to seek mental health services. And Indigenous people have suicide rates that are more than 2.5% higher than the national average. These disparities, these gaps are real, and so are the lives behind them. So are the people who are dealing with these conditions. So are the people who are afraid to go and seek mental health care because stigma, because we don't do that in our family, because we don't do that in our culture, because all of the reasons why we don't, and they don't get the help that they need. So many people are suffering in silence when they don't have to. And so when I think about the mental load, and I don't know if you guys really understand what a mental load is, and I can explain it from my perspective, right? So as a mother, as a wife, as a mother, as a healthcare provider, as a daughter, as all of the different hats that I wear, my to-do list is a trillion miles long, and I'm being really exaggerating about it, right? But I'm exaggerating about that. But my mind is constantly going and thinking about the next thing that I have to do in my to-do list and things of that nature. Now, are there times where I have moments of peace where I don't have to focus on that? Of course, because I've learned and I am learning to put things in place, to set boundaries, to um, take time out for self-care, to make sure that I am taking care of my mental health and my mental well-being just as I am with my physical health. And all of those things play a part of how I show up each and every day. And so the mental load is what you are mentally carrying. Is it the bills? It's the children. It's the school. It's the job. It's the needing a new job. It's the can't find a job. It's the, making sure that there's groceries and making sure that there's food cooked and make sure that the animals are taken care of. And did I get the pet? Did I get the food for the animals? And did I stop to pick up the prescription on the way home? And oh, I got to go fold the laundry, but yet I still got to, respond to students. Yet I still have to do this. And these people are waiting on me and these people are depending on me. The mental load is heavy. So what do you do with it? How do you unload that and make it less heavy? You reach out for help. You reach out for help. So when I think about mental health, it has a direct impact on an individual's physical health. Their physical well-being and the mental health is tied together. If you've been with me for any period of time, you know that I've talked about this previously and I will continue to talk about it. When we think about stress, what does that look like? If someone were to look at me and say, "You don't look stressed." I had an appointment yesterday and she asked me about my stress level. She said, "You don't look stressed. You actually look good today." And I'm stressed. I'm always dealing with some level of stress. It's just how it shows up in my body. For me, you may not see the stress on the outward, but inside there's a bundle of stress, a ball of stress, right? That stress ball that's going on. And I'm navigating and I'm journaling and I'm praying and I'm, doing all the things, talking with my therapist and doing all of the things that I need to do to make sure that mentally I am well. So what does stress look like? It feels like being overwhelmed. It may look irritable. In men, we know that depression and stress can show up as anger, trouble sleeping or concentrating. So you're dealing with some insomnia, body aches, headaches. Some individuals present with symptoms and that look like fibromyalgia. There's so many different things, racing heart rate, elevated blood pressure, GI distress or diarrhea or constipation, feeling nauseous, this feeling of impending doom. There's so many different ways that stress can show up in an individual's body. I can remember looking at social media maybe a week or so ago, and there was this young lady, her name was Quita. And Quita worked, she did all these different things. I think she worked a couple different jobs. She showed up for everybody. She was always going. I believe it says she worked like 7 days a week. She went home and she said, Quita needs a break. Quita went to sleep and didn't wake up. And I think the hustle mentality that, and I'm going to say my generation, right? Because I'm a hustler. I'm going to hustle. I'm going to make it happen until I change my mindset about it. Until I changed my mindset about it, it helped me to see things differently. That I don't have to have it all together. I don't have to be doing all of the things in order to feel like I'm accomplished or I'm worthy to receive love or attention or affection from someone else. I'm just putting that, just as an example, or to prove something to someone. But because of things that happened, we tend to overcompensate for things, right? And so I don't know what this young lady's situation was or what her background was, but she literally worked herself to death. She went to sleep and did not wake up. The stress, and I'm sure I can't, I'm just speculating, but stress kills more women in our country than, especially in the minority populations, more than any individuals. But stress can impact your overall health is the overarching point that I want to make. Stress can impact every area of your life. And when we look at stress, I have patients, and I think I've said it before, I have had patients that have come into me and experiencing a myriad of different signs and symptoms. And when we do all the tests, we check the blood pressure, we do the full physical exam, there is nothing that will indicate why this individual would be experiencing these symptoms. And when I speak to them about their stress, then we are able to get to the bottom of it. And when I'm taking care of my patients, I'm not just taking care. You come to me with a headache. I want to get to the root. cause of the headache, right? We want to figure out what's causing it. Is it something medically? Is it something physical? Is it something psychological? Is it something mentally that's having you, impacting this individual's health, that they're having these headaches and there's nothing that we've tried everything and nothing is happening? Anxiety. So, what does anxiety look like? How does anxiety show up in the body? And it can be different for everyone. Some it could be racing thoughts, shortness of breath, chest tightening, feeling that you're going to die. I can recall, and I think I've shared here a few times, where when after my grandmother passed, I experienced tremendous anxiety really bad, like I've never experienced before. And it felt like I was having a heart attack. It felt like I could not breathe, and that went into panic attacks and insomnia and all of those things. So the stress of everything that was happening to me in that moment and in that time frame of my life was lending to anxiety, avoiding people or tasks, because I can't focus on this one thing because it causes me too much anxiety. Is there anything that you have in your routine, day to day life, that you do that you avoid doing because it causes you stress or anxiety? Focus on those things. Try and get help to work through that, because the more we avoid it, the bigger the mountain comes, right? It's a little molehill, but then it's too big and it's too heavy for you to deal with. Anxiety looks different for everybody. And so when we think of anxiety, I've seen patients who have dealt with anxiety disorders, and there's no outward expression of that other than they're eating too much, or they're not eating enough, or they avoid crowds and different things. So everyone will have different symptoms if they are experiencing anxiety or stress. It shows up differently in everyone's body. No one is the same. It's not a cookie cutter method of pinpointing anxiety or stress in someone. When we're thinking of depression, depression is a persistent sadness or numbness. This individual is just sad all the time and it's prolonged, right? There's many different variations of depression, and there's many different terms and ways that we describe depression. Fatigue or lack of interest in activities, feeling down, hopeless, or depressed. These individuals lose their appetite sometimes and are unable to sleep, feeling guilt, shame, or worthlessness. And so whenever you're having your physical exam, as I mentioned before, your healthcare provider should be screening you for depression at each exam, each encounter, because that's important to know, right? We want to know what's going on in every aspect of every level of your healthcare. When it comes to suicidal thoughts, it could be simple, things that individual says that they don't feel that they're worthy of being here anymore, or they're having thoughts that they just want to go to sleep and not wake up. And I can tell you that I'm sorry, guys. I forgot to charge my laptop. And it's about to go dead. So I just had to text for help. So hopefully my husband or someone sees it and brings the laptop charger. I got to do better. But I can tell you that individuals who are experiencing suicidal thoughts may make little subtle hints or say certain things that are just not their normal, but talking about being a burden, or thinking that they are feeling and thinking that they're a burden to others, and withdrawing from loved ones. We've seen individuals start giving away their possessions and their things in their home, and saying things like, I can't take this anymore. Many different things. So when you are around someone, it's important to pay attention to that person. If you know someone intimately, and I don't mean intimate like that, but just you've been around this person, you know them, you see them day in and day out, and you begin to notice changes, it's important to try and figure out how to help them and to get them help. And if you have someone that's having suicidal thoughts, reach out. There's different resources and services that are available that can help those individuals. The symptoms of depression and suicidal thoughts and anxiety. Can you bring me my charger for my laptop, please? Hmm? Yes, in the living room. I'm on my live. My laptop about to die. Thank you, bye. I'm sorry. They may be silent. You may not be able to pick up on them, but you got to pay attention to these people. You got to pay attention though to those that are around you. There are individuals who have ended their life, and people were surprised or shocked because they're used to putting on a mask. They're used to hiding it. They're used to um, explaining it away. They're used to being okay with the way that they are. And others around think that they're absolutely fine when on the inside they're falling apart. And so pay attention to how you feel if it's you that's dealing with these things, and how those around you are behaving. It's important. And I know we have our own things that we're dealing with, right? We have our own situations, we have our own issues, we have our own stuff that we're dealing with. But to hear that someone passed away from suicide, they lost their life to suicide, and no one picked up on the clues, it's sad. There was a well known DJ, I think his name was, internet guy, famous guy, I believe, who in 1 minute, there was a video of him happy, dancing, singing with his family member. And within a few hours, this man was gone, had taken his life. And so, for an individual to feel that they don't have anyone that they trust to tell or talk about, and to be vulnerable and open about what they're feeling and dealing with, is sad. So, let's make sure that we're taking care of ourselves and that we're paying attention to those that we love. There are some barriers when it comes to mental health and why we don't talk about it. And so some of the barriers is the stigma of seeming weak or crazy. And I can remember, and I'm very transparent about this, I can remember after my grandmother passed away, I felt that it was a sign of weakness when I needed to take a break and take a step from work in order to deal with the grief that I was dealing with. I felt like that it was that I was weak and that I'm built for this, right? I'm tough. I can handle this. I've been handling it for so long. And that's the reason. Many people have been dealing with and handling and carrying it for so long, to the point where it's just too heavy. If you think about a backpack, and you're putting rocks and boulders and big bricks in this backpack, eventually your shoulders are going to be, you're not going to be able to hold it for too long because it's going to be too heavy. And that backpack is going to get to be to a point where it's weighing you down. And that's what mental load is. That's what depression is. That's what anxiety is. We're putting all these things in our backpack or in our purse, and we can't carry it any longer. So who can you give that to? Who can you hand that book bag off? How can you unload some of the rocks out of there, right? How can you get rid of some of those things to make sure that you have peace and that you're not dealing with these things alone? Some of the other stigmas or barriers is cultural expectations. Be strong, pray it away. It's a family matter. I've seen that. I've heard it, right? I may have at one point said it myself. Pray about it. We can pray. Just you. There's nothing you can't do in prayer. You know, prayers can handle everything, and we got to be strong. We can't show signs of weakness. And it's a family matter. We don't talk about things that happen outside of this house. What goes in this house stays in this house. Well, what's going on in some houses and what's staying in houses right now is killing people. And it's sad. It's sad. And so we have to do better by ourselves and for others. Lack of representation in the mental health field for when it comes to providers. I am a part of several different groups when it comes to healthcare providers. And I love when I'm able to see others who look like me doing the same thing. and representing the different communities. Because when I go somewhere and I'm seeing a provider who looks like me, it helps. And not saying that I'm the best for someone else that looks like me, right? But just to have that representation is definitely important. And then the distrust in the healthcare system. When we think about the Tuskegee Airmen experiment, and the things that happened then with syphilis and things of that nature, where they weren't treating these individuals. And when we hear about case after case on the news about individuals who have gone to the hospital or gone to doctors for healthcare and were treated differently because of the color of their skin, or women, when they're in labor, they're not being treated the same when it comes to pain management. There's study after study that talks about this. So mistrust in the healthcare system. And one of the things my goal is as a healthcare provider is to make sure that my patients and my family and friends have what they need, and that they feel comfortable, and that they feel like they have an ally and someone who is going to walk alongside them on the journey of their healthcare, and that they can trust me. That's the first thing. If you can't trust me, then we're not a good fit as a provider and patient relationship. And that's okay. Find you someone that you can trust. The next thing is cost and the access to care. When we're thinking of the things that are happening in society right now and some of the bills that have just been passed, that's going to eliminate healthcare for individuals who crucially need it. We can expect to see some changes in healthcare, but when things are already expensive, where do people go? But there's so many options, right? There's so many options. You have Hello Alma, you have Headspace, you have a lot of different options that are available. And I'm grateful for this because it all came out during the pandemic, or was highlighted during the pandemic. We had higher numbers of individuals who were dealing with anxiety and depression, and they were able to access mental health. When people don't feel seen, they stop asking for help. That's why representation and understanding is so critical. It's so critical to mental health in all populations and communities. What are some things that you can do to try and help cope with or deal with stress, anxiety, and depression? And one thing I can say that works for me is a routine. Once I'm in my routine, I have my routine set, I do well. It helps with uncertainty. It helps with anxiety. Journaling is another thing that helps me. I'm able to put all my thoughts on paper. I'm able to get them out of my head and onto paper. So I'm writing the things that I'm emotional about, that I'm dealing with emotionally, or triggers, and then the process. And then I can go back and read later to see where I came from, what I was able to overcome with prayer and in conjunction with all of the other things that I do. Some other things that you can look at doing is also exercising and deep breathing and physical movement, social support, reaching out to friends and family, looking online. And there's so many groups now that are available on social media. It amazes me. There's a group for everything. So if you're dealing with something, maybe connecting with someone virtually can help provide you with some resources and things that other individuals who are dealing with some similar things have tried and have been successful with. Faith, and then your spirituality, praying, gospel music, your church family, your community. I can tell you there are times when I may be in a mood, or I'm not, I'm frustrated or what have you. I can put on a specific gospel song and it lifts my mood. I love Tyron Wells. I've been listening to him for the past couple of days, and the music and just the words and the message behind the song, what helps, right? It helps you to take your focus off of things. So when should you seek professional help? When you're feeling hopeless daily, when those feelings just won't go away. If it's to a point where it's like consuming you and you feel like it's just not going away. When the panic attacks are constant and then you have that constant feeling of dread. When you can't breathe and you feel like you're having a heart attack and you're going to the emergency room because you feel like you're having a heart attack and there's nothing physically wrong. When you're unable to complete daily tasks, when you're finding yourself not able to get out of bed, and these feelings are consuming everything that you do. It's impacting your work, it's impacting relationships, and overall it's impacting your health. Seek help. And if you're thinking about harming yourself, is another time that it's important to seek help. As I mentioned before, I've given this number 988. It's the suicide and crisis hotline. You can call or text for help. There's a therapy of color directory. It's therapy for Black girls and LatinxTherapy.com. There's also therapy groups just for men. I believe it's Black Men Therapy. Google it. Put it in Chat GPT. It'll give you a whole lot of resources that you need. Go online and start asking in some of the communities. Find your people, find your tribe, find the area where you feel safe and that you're able to connect with someone that you're able to feel comfortable with and you feel safe to talk to them. Having a safe space is so very important. And then there's local support. We at Wells Legacy Health and Wellness, we not only take care of the physical body, but we take care of the mental as well. Holistic, every area of your body. Therapy isn't a sign of weakness, it's wisdom. Knowing that you need help is a sign of wisdom. And you don't have to carry the burden alone. You don't have to carry all those backs alone. Let someone carry some of those burdens, unload some of those rocks. And each of those rocks could be anxiety, it can be depression, it can be feelings of hopelessness, it can be anxiety, it can be whatever you want to name it. Find someone that you feel safe to hand those load, give that load to. I can recall being at church and we have altar call, and or prior to that, it was an example for myself where I envisioned myself holding all of the things that were weighing heavy on me and laying them on the altar. Like I was physically giving them away so I didn't have to carry them anymore. And when I tell you the act of just that very simple thing helped me. So whether you are physically giving that load away to someone else or you're placing it down or you are virtually giving that load away to someone. Talking to a therapist, a good friend, or someone that you trust, reaching out to a healthcare provider to seek help is so important. It's so very important. As healthcare providers, there's many things that we can do to be better in this aspect. One, take time to listen to our patients to make sure that they feel heard and they feel seen. Understand how racism and microaggressions and cultural traumas impact individuals' mental health. Make sure that we know our patients and we understand and that we're socially, culturally sensitive when it comes to different communities that we don't interact with every day. It's our job to make sure that everyone that comes to our doors, that sits in our exam tables, that calls us on the phone and seeking help is getting the help that they need without our biases or any preconceived notion or idea about them. Ask about faith and community support and cultural beliefs during physical exams and when you're interviewing your patients, when you're doing that review of system healthcare providers. We go through our whole slew of questions. Ask about their faith and their community support and cultural beliefs. I have that integrated into my new patient questionnaire forms, and that information is there. So when someone is accepting an appointment or booking an appointment with me, they receive this paperwork ahead of time. And when we come in for that exam, we're discussing those things. Offer cultural competent and language accessible care. So for those patients who don't speak English as their native language, have resources available in their native language, have the access to translators to be able to assist your patients. Build trust and not judgment. Depression could look like someone just doesn't have any drive to take care of themselves. Yes, they know they have high blood pressure. Yes, they know they have diabetes. But depression, they don't have the energy or the focus or the ability to carry out the act of checking their blood sugar and taking their medication. So let's not be judgmental. Let's get to the core and the bottom of what our patients are truly dealing with. We must look beyond, as healthcare providers, we have to look beyond the symptoms and ask, what has this patient survived? I can remember reading a book, The Body Keeps a Score, or listening to it on Audible. The Body Keeps the Score. And I actually purchased the book because I just do that. If I listen to an Audible, I want to have the book on hand so I can make highlights and make notes and things of that nature. But anyhow, understanding what happened to that person and not what's wrong with them. Because typically our first thing is, what's wrong with you? No, what happened to you? What has this person survived? We never know. And until we take time to actually step into this individual's shoes and get to know and understand what they've dealt with, we will never understand. And as healthcare providers, it's our job to make sure that we're providing a safe space for our patients and community. I know I'm a little bit over tonight, but I felt like I needed to have this discussion. How heavy is your mental load is a question I want to ask you. My call to action tonight is, if you feel that you're dealing with anxiety, depression, panic attacks, insomnia, or thoughts of suicide, reach out. 988 is the National Suicide and Crisis Line, available 24/7, 365 days a year. Reach out. Wells Legacy Health and Wellness is available to help you and to talk with you. We can be reached at 321-306-6755. If you have a family member or a loved one or a friend who meets the criteria for anything that I've talked to tonight, would you help them on that journey to get the help that they need? Will you go with them? Will you sit with them as they make the phone call? We have to many times come out of ourselves and not focus on what we're dealing with in order to see what someone else is truly dealing with. Because we're stronger together. As a community, we can come together and make sure that everyone has what they need. And that's what we're here for. This is Dr. Latoya Wells with Wells Legacy Health and Wellness. Stay safe and be well. And until next time, if you need help, we're here. Take care. Bye.